Hi, little Isaac. It's Grandma Suzanne here. I was going to be dressed and washed before I read you the book. I went outside, had a little mouse in the bathtub I had to take outside, and then I fed the chickens and I let them out and fed the cats. Came upstairs, was about to send your mom an email about political news of the day, and then little Maisie came at the side of the bed where I was getting the computer plugged in and snuggled next to me. And then she snuggled in my lap like this, and I don't want to disturb her. She slept half the night right up here, hugging me. It was so nice. But because the door things were open, she went outside and was enjoying just the outside because it gets light and beautiful so early. It's going to get very cold for a few days. Very cold, 28 degrees, I think, Monday night. But I'll cover up my plants and keep them warm. So, the only choices we have are the books that I can reach. And I think the only book that I could reach is one called Chanticleer and the Fox. And if little Maisie will let me, I'm going to reach over to get it. Well, I have lots of adult books on the other side, but I'm not sure you would want me to read one of those right now. So it's called Chanticleer and the Fox. And it would appear that Chanticleer might be a chicken. And here's a picture on the back. Your mom had such a good idea about reading, about every time we read 100 books, buying one of the books from that we've liked in the past 100, and I love that idea. She picked hers, and I'm going to pick which one mine is, and you're going to have books of your very own. But you'll always have lots of books from the library because I check out a lot of books from the library. I'm returning a bunch today and getting some more because we read a bunch. I must have 30 books to return and maybe 20 more to keep and read again or that we didn't read yet. And this is one of them. Now, our little friend, the frog, is downstairs. So we'll read another book with him later, but we'll read this one just with you, me, and Maisie. Okay. So, Chanticleer. Now, I think somebody was a bit rough with this because they have some torn pages and some clipped together, but we'll do our best. It says, this book, I just noticed it says ages 4 to 8. Well, we're getting a jump on it. Oh, and it's adapted from the Canterbury Tales and illustrated by Barbara Cooney. Well, the Canterbury Tales are written by Chaucer. And we'll read more about that another time, but let's just get on with the story. Chanticleer and the Fox. But this was written hundreds of years ago, so the clothes are different, the story's different. I mean, than the way we talk now and so on. But it says, for Phoebe. Phoebe's a great name. Once upon a time, a poor widow, getting on in years, lived in a small cottage beside a grove which stood in a little valley. This widow, about whom I shall tell you my tale, had patiently led a very simple life since the day her husband died. By careful management, she was able to take care of herself and her 2 daughters. They have a garden like we do. Trees and a nice little house. She had only 3 large sows, those are lady pigs, 3 cows, and a sheep called Molly. I like this book. Her bedroom was very sooty, as was her kitchen, in which she ate many a scanty meal. Soot is the black stuff from fire, and if it's sooty, it means there probably is a fireplace right there, and she's not able to get it as clean as she would like. She was never sick from overeating. Her table was usually set with only white and black, milk and dark bread, of which there was no shortage, and sometimes there was broiled bacon and an egg or two, for she was, as it were, a kind of dairy woman. Notice that when she says it's black and white, it means there weren't a lot of vegetables or fruits, because that's where there's a lot of color. And this picture is a very nice picture. It shows their little kitchen with the fireplace, and it shows the wood for the fireplace, and it shows little mice, of which there were probably many. And since they didn't mention that she has a cat, they might have had a lot of mice. Maisie kind of takes care of that in this house. But the one that they caught that was in the bathtub, they had gone outside. So I was able to easily get it and put it outside in hopefully a safe place with a lot of places to hide. And I put some sunflower seed around, so if it's been hungry, it has some food right there. Because wherever they got it from is not where I took it back to, because I don't know where that was. So wherever it was, at that point, they knew where the food was. But up here, I mean, where I took it, they don't. So hopefully that little mouse got some of the food. And I put it near a lot of hiding places. Back to the story. As our little frog friend would say, all right, let's get back to the story. She had a yard fenced all around with sticks, in which she had a rooster named Chanticleer. For crowing, there was not an equal in all the land. That is a beautiful rooster. I have chickens, but I don't have a rooster. For crowing, there was not an equal in all the land. Crowing is, oh, 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 sort of. Okay. His voice was merrier than the merry organ that plays in church, and his crowing from his resting place was more trustworthy than a clock. His comb was redder than fine coral, and turreted like a castle wall. His bill was black and shone like jet, and his legs and toes were like azure. His nails were whiter than the lily, and his feathers were like burnished gold. Now that is a spectacular description of an amazingly beautiful animal. Most animals are amazingly beautiful if you look. I have 17 chickens right now, and everyone is amazingly beautiful if you look closely. I had 2 that died in the last couple weeks. Now this fine rooster had 7 hens, all colored exceedingly like him. The hen with the prettiest throat was called fair Demoiselle Partlet. She was polite, discreet, debonair, and companionable, and she had conducted her so well since the time that she was 7 days old that truly she held the heart of Chanticleer all tightly locked. It was a great joy to hear them sing in sweet harmony when the bright sun began to rise. For in those days, so I'm told, beasts and birds could talk and sing. Well, that's interesting, because our animals now make noises, and they talk if we understand those noises, but they don't talk in the language that we talk. That's a beautiful hen, Chanticleer, and his hen, Demoiselle Partlet. I think we should name our hens. Let's do that. I very much like this book. And so it happened one day at dawn, as Chanticleer sat on his perch. I want you to see Maisie a little better. But then you don't see my head. Can you hear her purring? She's very purring. It's beautiful. As it so happened one day at dawn, as Chanticleer sat on his perch surrounded by the hens, that he began to groan in his throat like a man troubled by his dreams. When Partlet heard him moaning this way, she was frightened and said, "Dear heart, what ails you to groan in such a manner?" Here are the pictures. And he answered, saying, "Madam, I dreamed just now that I was in much danger. I dreamed that I was roaming up and down within our yard when I saw a beast like a hound which tried to grab my body and would have killed me. His color was between yellow and red, and his tail and both ears were tipped with black, different from the rest of his fur. His snout was small, and his 2 eyes glowed. I almost died of fear at the sight of him. Doubtless that's what caused my groaning." "Go on," she said. "Shame on you. You know I cannot love a coward, by my faith. Haven't you a man's heart, and haven't you a beard? Be merry, husband. Do not fear dreams." That's an interesting little thing there, because I think everyone's allowed to be afraid, because everyone is afraid of something. And the fear is sometimes of smart things to be afraid of, and you feel the fear and then you take care of it. Or you take caution so it doesn't happen. "Go on," she said. "Shame on you." I already read that, sorry. "Thank you, Madam Partlet," he said, "for your learned advice. I do say that when I see the beauty of your face, all scarlet red about the eyes, my fears die away." There he is, speaking to his speaking to his Demoiselle Bartlett. I think Demoiselle is a sort of abbreviated version of Mademoiselle. Kind of a pretty way to say it, actually. And with these words he flew down from the rafter, along with the hens, for it was day. With a clucking, he called them all to some grain which he found lying about the yard. He was as regal as a prince in his palace, and was no longer afraid. He looked like a lion as he roamed up and down on his toes. He barely set foot on the earth. Chanticleer, walking in all his pride, with his 7 wives beside him, cast up his eyes at the bright sun. He crowed with a happy voice, Listen how the happy birds sing, and how the fresh flowers grow. My heart is full of gaiety and joy." But suddenly a sorrowful event overtook him. One more time on these pictures before we turn the page, because I didn't look up close at the house where we see the people in their medieval clothing working inside the house. It looks like their barn, milking the cow, making butter, picking flowers. Here we go. I'm sorry, I didn't turn the page very carefully. Let's see what the sorrowful event that overtook him is. Man, I don't know why I can't turn this page. A fox, tipped with black and full of sly... I have to read it. Wickedness, had lived in the grove 3 years. That same night he burst through the hedges into the yard where fair Chanticleer and his wives were in the habit of going. And this fox lay quietly in a bed of herbs until almost noon of that day. Partlet, with all her sisters nearby, lay merrily bathing in the sand, with her back to the sun, and the lordly Chanticleer sang more joyfully than the mermaid in the sea. Now it happened that, I'm past 15 minutes. Let me send this, and then we'll read again.